Dana and her husband Jack have settled in a small town. Their daughter, Emily, married Peter, a young man of good manners, quiet and calm. But a shadow crept into their world that eclipsed the light of their happiness. Peter had always adored Emily. He respected her parents and often invited them to visit. His mother-in-law, in turn, enjoyed being involved in her daughter's life. She was an active, energetic woman in her 40s, in good shape. Dana enjoyed the visits and loved spending time with her daughter and son-in-law, often cooking their favorite dishes and hosting small family gatherings. At some point, however, Dana noticed that her son-in-law started paying more attention to her. It wasn't just the little favors he did for her. There was something more, a deep interest in his gaze that she couldn't ignore. At first, she had brushed it off, explaining that Peter was just trying to be a good son-in-law. He was always there when she needed help fixing a leaky faucet, carrying heavy boxes, or just helping with yard work. One weekend, when Emily went to visit her grandmother, Dana decided to invite Peter over for a cup of coffee. She wanted to discuss some family issues, but also just enjoy his company. Time passed. They talked and laughed about various topics, favorite movies, funny stories from childhood, common experiences. Dana noticed Peter's gaze lingering on her more than usual and blushed at his attention. She tried not to show it, but at the same time, she struggled to hide her growing excitement. Time passed, and they continued to see each other from time to time, either on vacation or when Dana needed help around the house, especially when Jack was away on a business trip. Peter seemed to always be available, always willing to help. Every time Emily left the two of them alone, they exchanged flirtatious smiles, provoking each other into conversations that hinted at something more. Dana looked forward to these moments, and the thrill of unspoken attraction grew stronger with each encounter. One day after dinner, Dana accidentally caught Peter's eye. Their hands touched as they reached for the same dish. At that moment, a spark of passion flared between them that they both tried to keep to themselves. Peter leaned closer, and Dana felt his breath on her skin. It was a delicious, forbidden moment. Emotions struggled inside her. On the one hand, the passion that overwhelmed her body, and on the other, the guilt she felt for her daughter. She knew it was wrong, but she couldn't suppress the growing desire. That night, she lay awake, replaying the moment over and over in her mind, torn between conscience and desire. Dana couldn't resist the temptation of spontaneous kisses as they sat side by side on the couch, discussing movies or just reminiscing about past encounters. The first time it happened, almost by accident, a fleeting touch of lips that neither of them recognized afterwards. But it quickly grew into something more. Time passed, and their adventures became unbearable. The more they were around each other, the stronger the attraction became, and they could no longer stop. Each time they met, new sparks flared between them, the tension grew, and it was almost impossible to contain it. They began to find excuses to be alone together. Peter would come over to help with minor repairs. Dana would offer to go for a walk while Jack was busy. Dana realized that their relationship couldn't last forever, but desires clouded her judgment. Then came the day Emily decided to spend the weekend with her parents. She and Peter traveled to their home to enjoy a family dinner. Dana tried to keep things normal, but the tension between her and Peter was palpable. When Emily went to lie down in the other room after dinner, and Jack went to the store for cigarettes, Dana and Peter just couldn't help themselves. The magnetic attraction between them became too strong. Their lips met, and their hearts were gripped by fear and excitement. Their lives were no longer the same. They both realized they were crossing a line they could never cross again. But in that moment, nothing else mattered. Dana realized that this was too much. She was destroying her family and her daughter's family, but she also knew that this moment was unforgettable. She couldn't deny the excitement she felt, that rush of desire. However, it couldn't last forever. Emily began to notice that Peter was becoming increasingly distant from her. He seemed distracted, less attentive, and more withdrawn. At first, she didn't understand what was happening, but gradually, she became suspicious. She sensed that something was wrong, some tension that hadn't been there before. One day, coming home early from work, she walked into the room and saw Peter and her mother kissing. Emily's heart sank. Feelings of betrayal and resentment had shattered their family, causing a scandal that shook everyone. Dana realized that her act with Peter had consequences that would inevitably change everyone's lives forever. If Jack found out about it, she knew he would likely kick her out of the house. The trust that had once held their family together had been shattered, and the weight of her betrayal was pressing down on her like a heavy burden. She could see the hurt in Emily's eyes, the distrust and resentment she had caused. The affair had left scars in everyone's souls, but in the end, time has a way of healing. Emily and Peter's relationship began to grow with a new level of trust and understanding. They attended counseling, reliving the betrayal and trying to rebuild what had been broken. It wasn't easy. There were many tears, many long nights of difficult conversations. But they overcame the betrayal and eventually began to live their lives as before. However, they never visited Dana and Jack again. The relationship between Emily and her mother became strained. They communicated politely but distantly, and the former warmth was replaced by unspoken tension. Dana and Jack continued to live in the small town, but things were no longer the same. Jack still didn't understand what had happened, but he sensed the change in his wife. She was quieter, more reserved, as if the spark that had once defined her had faded. Dana had gone head over heels in her hobbies, trying to fill the void left by the loss of her relationship with Emily. She knew she could never undo the past, but she hoped that in time her daughter would be able to forgive her. Eventually, Peter and Emily moved to another town, eager to start a new life away from the memories that haunted them. They bought a small house and slowly began to rebuild their lives. The affair was never spoken of again, but it remained in the background as a silent reminder of what they had overcome. Emily grew stronger, more independent, and though the pain of the betrayal never went away, she learned to live with it. Peter changed too. He became more thoughtful, more appreciative of what he almost lost. For Dana, the cost of her action was the loss of her daughter's trust and the distance that now defined their relationship. She knew she had made a choice she could never get back, and she lived with that realization every day. But she also knew that life went on, and she tried to find comfort in the little things: a quiet morning with Jack, a walk in a city she loved, the hope that one day she would be able to look into her daughter's eyes without the shadow of the past between them.